Chapter 11. Zombie Horde. Kang Dafeng chased zombies into that building. That couldn't be right. Lu Yin's mind started racing. Even without sentience, zombies still had the instinctive urge to avoid danger. The mutant spider was extremely dangerous, and they should never have gone anywhere near it. This was the first time in his 6 months dealing with them that he had ever seen them do such a thing. It was simply unthinkable for them to run from Kang Dafeng towards something far more terrifying. Could it be a trap? He narrowed his eyes, hoping that he was overthinking things, but after the incident with Kang Dafeng, even he was on edge. A day later, the troops stopped next to an abandoned toll station where their mission finally began. This was part of the route that had been destroyed and needed repairs, but before they could begin, a soldier ran up to Lu Yin to report, "Captain, there's a battle going on 5 kilometers away. A small group of cultivators is being attacked by mutant beasts." Lu Yin sent a few soldiers to go save the group, and 30 minutes later the troops returned with 5 tattered cultivators in tow. All of them seemed to be starving, but he didn't order for any food to be brought to them. Everyone had to be prepared for death when they went out to hunt mutant beasts. While his army had some food, it had taken great effort and many lives to obtain it. He wasn't a saint to give that food away. If these people were truly hungry, they could go look for some rats to eat. Thus, the 5 strangers could only watch in envy as the soldiers devoured their food. After a while, one of them finally called out to Lu Yin, who was keeping a lookout from atop the toll station's roof, "Sir, could you please provide us some food? We can pay you with information." "What information?" Lu Yin looked at the man. "Will you give us food once I tell you?" came the hopeful reply. Lu Yin's voice went cold. "Are you trying to negotiate with me?" "No, sir, I wouldn't dare. Actually, we actually had plenty of food yesterday, but we were robbed by an expert in silver armor." Lu Yin's gaze flickered. "Continue." The cultivator swallowed to soothe his dry throat and continued, "The only realm of sky expert in Nanjing is the executioner, but the one who attacked us could also fly. I'm thinking it must have been his armor. He was about to kill us after stealing our food, but then he started talking to himself like he was crazy and suddenly shot towards the east." Lu Yin quickly realized that they had encountered Horde, but talking to himself. The more likely scenario was that he had contacted someone with his watch. Could he have called another student? That would be troublesome. Zhou Shan had already struggled to defeat one alien. If there were more, the result was up in the air. He ordered that the group to be given some food before sitting down and staring at the sky. What was he concerned about? Nanjing. The refugees. He was an outsider like Vesta, but his time on Earth had given him a sense of attachment. In truth, his memories only dated back to about 2.5 years ago. He remembered nothing of his life before that. Most of the time he did remember had been spent on Earth. To him, this planet was home. Lu Yin sighed. It was a pity that he wasn't a powerhouse yet. While he could still try to save some people, he certainly couldn't save the entire planet. Still, he contacted Zhou Shan and informed the man about his guess. "Sigh, I understand," Zhou Shan answered. "Finish the repairs as quickly as possible. I'll try to find out what the others are dealing with. These students are powerful. Others. The other sages." Lu Yin was left wondering to himself as the call ended. Eventually, he just muttered to himself, "I hope Lu Xiaoj isn't dead, or how will I get my revenge?" Clouds covered the sky that night, leaving no stars to be seen. A disappointed Lu Yin slept in his armored vehicle, but was awoken in the middle of the night by Shu San's scream, "Boss, a horde of zombies." Shaking himself awake, Lu Yin left the armored vehicle and leapt atop the toll station to see countless zombies closing in from all around. Luo Yi shouted to the troops, "Activate all defenses, throw fire at them." It didn't long for the zombies to flood upon them, attacking the toll station from all directions. Flaming objects were thrown everywhere and started to burn the ground, startling the captain who'd just given that command. She shouted again in warning, "Careful, keep the flames away or you'll all burn." The thunderous spray of gunfire resounded in all directions that dark night, 10,000 soldiers doing their best to kill every zombie they saw. The shower was peppered with metallic dinks as the occasional bullet ricocheted off the zombies. Steely claws and screams rang out as soldiers were clawed or dragged into the horde. The 5 rescued cultivators were terrified by the sight. It was the most horrifying thing they had ever seen. Luo Yi constantly brandished her blade, the energy wave from each attack tearing through dozens of zombies with every swing. While she was normally quite timid, This realm of Earth powerhouse was ruthless in actual combat. Lu Yin was right in the middle of the zombie horde, clearing away swaths of them with his metal rod. Although ballistics were the most effective type of weapons against zombies, Nanjing was almost out of supplies. The bullets lost when the weapon's cache was destroyed could have killed countless zombies. Focused solely on killing as many opponents as he could, he only snapped out of it when a panicked voice rang from the radio at his waist. "Boss, the southwest line is about to collapse." Shocked, Lu Yin leapt up and headed southwest along the heads of the zombie horde. Just what could have killed so many soldiers there? "There's a strange zombie there that's very powerful. None of the realm of man officers can beat it," Shu San reported from his vantage point above the battle. Lu Yin plunged to the ground, crashing his metal rod down at the point where the zombies and soldiers met. A slash visibly tore through the sky and ripped the ground apart, drawing a clear line on the ground and killing dozens of zombies in one go. Many soldiers took advantage of the opportunity to retreat, the fear clear in their eyes. They had lost more than 50 people in mere moments. Unable to handle the impact, the rod broke in half with a clang. "Captain, watch out!" someone shouted. The horde seemed infinite, with at least 100,000 zombies surrounding the entire area. Lu Yin had to activate the cosmic art to push the zombies near him away, but one long-haired enemy somehow withstood the attack and remained in place. "Boss, that's the one. He slaughtered the soldiers," Shu San's voice rang from the radio, but Lu Yin was staring at the zombie before him in shock. He had just noticed something unbelievable. There was a clear sign of intelligence in its eyes. He could clearly see the glint of thought in those blood-red orbs, something that left him dazed until the zombie suddenly charged at him without warning. Its claws stretched out towards him, the aftermath of the attack killing zombies even 10 meters away once he dodged it. This zombie was in the realm of Earth and far surpassed Kang Dafeng, it even approached Zhao Yu's level. Lu Yin paid attention to the zombie's attack, noticing the structure behind the sloppiness. If not for its clear features, he would never believe the attacker was a zombie. It even roared and fled after a few attacks, trying to escape. His eyes twitched as he saw white threads on its back, confirming his conjecture from the morning. This thing had lured Kang Dafeng into the building with the spider. With no more time to think, Lu Yin hurled the broken metal rod into the zombie's torso. The zombie turned to throw a glare at him, but it continued to flee to the south. The entire horde roared and tried to block his advance. "Shu San, where is it?" Lu Yin shouted. "Boss, it turned west after 100 meters, it's heading the same way we came from." Lu Yin worked his legs and vanished, leaving behind an afterimage that was instantly swarmed by the countless zombies. Shu San just stared from his vantage point in awe. Was that a battle technique? Lu Yin ran out from the wave of zombies at full speed, charging in the same direction they had come from, but it was already too late and he'd lost track. When Shu San reported that he couldn't see it anymore either, he stopped with his back to the toll station and took out Vesta's watch. The device flashed as he activated its tracking abilities, showing multiple mutant beasts within range. He ran towards the direction of an impressive 990, knowing that it had to be the zombie. This was likely the king of the horde. So long as he killed it, the horde would likely disperse. It clearly wanted to defeat Lu Yin's soldiers and Kang Dafeng had been its first victim. Chapter 12. Astral 10. Lu Yin did not know just how far Vesta's scanner could cover, but he knew that 10 miles was at least a good possibility. He quickly chased after where he believed the zombie king to be, quickly heading further and further away from the toll station. The zombie horde that had been left behind slowly regained a hint of calmness, most wandering around aimlessly once more. Shu San and the others heaved a sigh of relief. The stinking trenches meandered into the distance, green eyes occasionally flashing within the patches of grass. Lu Yin constantly checked his watch as he sped along. If he didn't get rid of the zombie king, any troops from Nanjing who passed through this place would be in grave danger in the future. The creature could even spell disaster for all of Nanjing. He soon started hearing crunches in the distance and followed the source of the sound, coming across a ditch that was emanating a dark red glow. A crimson mist wafted into the moonlight, its red sparkle illuminating the night. Lu Yin soon saw two scarlet eyes, but he had to look away for a moment. Fire crystals. The zombie king was eating fire crystals. Roar. The long-haired zombie leapt into the sky, clawing towards him with a dark red glow on its arm. The hand radiated a scorching glow, forcing Lu Yin to dodge. The excess energy from the attack burnt a large patch of grass, and moments later a few fire crystals dropped behind the zombie king and shattered to pieces on the ground. The flames quickly started spreading everywhere. Lu Yin utilized the roving step to flash behind the zombie king's back, extracting his rod from its flesh and piercing it into the creature's head. The zombie went rigid for a moment, its body eventually shaking and collapsing to the ground. A dark red glow burst out from within its body, the flames consuming it from the inside out. Lu Yin would never have expected a zombie to be able to unlock abilities by consuming energy crystals. Only 1 in 10,000 humans had any endowments at all, but the zombie could just swallow fire crystals and use their energy. Just who was the higher life form? The zombie king quickly burned down to ashes, the flames slowly dying out. It was only then that he walked over to the ditch where it had been swallowing the crystals, finding a hole at the bottom. He was shocked at a red glow that appeared when he shone a torch down there, but that shock quickly turned to excitement, a fire crystal deposit. Energy crystals were always in demand in the universe. Astral crystals, fire crystals, water crystals, they were all extremely valuable. Lu Yin had never expected to come across a deposit here, even though he didn't know how big it was certainly a treasure trove. He definitely hadn't expected such a reward for killing the zombie king. Thinking over things, he took out a good number of crystals before sealing the entrance. He then walked all around the area to hide his trail, making sure that others couldn't follow his trail to find it. Just like Shu San, this place was a precious resource for his future. Just as Lu Yin was about to leave, he noticed another dark red glow under his feet. He bent down and started to dig at the dirt, finding a pair of scarlet eyes. He felt a chill run down his spine as he realized these were artificially constructed, and digging further he found that it was a human head with a sinister smile and scarlet eyes that seemed like they could pierce his very soul. He felt goosebumps rise up as he almost threw the thing away immediately, but he managed to calm himself down and put the thing in his cosmic ring. It took a while for him to regain his calm. Just what the hell was it and why was it here? It was clearly man-made, so someone had to have been here before. It also clearly wasn't just a random piece of craft, it definitely had a purpose. Exhaling loudly, Lu Yin quickly left. Most of the zombie horde had dispersed by the time he returned, and his soldiers were now holding steadily. An hour later, all of the zombies that still remained had run away. Corpses were piled up outside the toll station, filling the building with a pungent odor that attracted a flood of rats to the area. It was a horrifying sight. "Brother Lu, where had you gone?" Luo Yi asked in annoyance when she saw him. Lu Yin replied seriously, "I found a zombie king that was sentient. It was what had brought this horde." "What? Are you for real?" Luo Yi asked in shock. Report this to the executioner immediately. The zombies are no longer just a numeric threat. There can be powerhouses amongst them as well. That king killed more than 50 of our troops tonight." Understanding the gravity of the situation, Luo Yi immediately went away to report. "Boss, how are you?" Shu San asked. This wasn't out of concern, however, at least not for Lu Yin. Without Lu Yin's presence, Shu San simply had no status in the camp. "Take care of things for me, I need some rest." Lu Yin waved him off. "Yes, boss." The zombie horde had caused almost 100 casualties, but everyone had already gotten used to such cruel scenes. An uncountable number of people had perished since the apocalypse, and most soldiers had been through so many comrades that it barely fazed them. Lying on the roof of the toll station, Lu Yin couldn't help but touch his cosmic ring. The head within left him unable to relax. The materials clearly weren't from Earth. Was it brought along by those students? What kind of student would bring such a thing? Luo Yi jumped up to the rooftop. Her lovely face showed clear signs of exhaustion. She sat by his side. "The executioner wants to convey this matter to the front lines as soon as possible. The best outcome would be if we could contact the capital and tell them to." "The capital?" Lu Yin chuckled. "They should already know about it." "Huh, why do you say that?" "I'm not sure, but here's a guess. If we saw a zombie king here, why wouldn't more have appeared elsewhere?" Luo Yi hugged her knees, dazedly looking into the distance. The vast night sky was covered in clouds, illuminated only by the light of the moon. "When do you think Earth will be peaceful again?" she murmured. Lu Yin did not respond. Dark nights often left people lonely, and the vulnerable Luo Yi now would be gone come day. Time would not stop on account of one's fears. Planetary evolution took a long time, and the trials had only begun. Perhaps only the 7 sages were privy to this information outside of himself. The students that had just arrived would decide the fate of their world. Vesta and Orden were merely students from ordinary schools of the Great U Empire. They were perhaps elites in their own bubbles, but they were nothing compared to those from actual high-tier institutions. An elite from those places had powerful battle techniques and was leagues ahead of anyone else. They were the main characters in these so-called planetary trials. As he thought about this, he touched his cosmic ring once more and looked over at Luo Yi. Go get some rest, I'll keep watch tonight. Luo Yi nodded and smiled weakly. You know, something could have happened between us if you said something nice just now. He smiled back but paid no attention as she departed. He simply wasn't interested. As Luo Yi left the rooftop, the soldiers around organized their stuff mindlessly while Shusan bawled loudly from afar. Watching it all, Lu Yin took out the watch and turned it on. Even though he'd disabled location access on it and didn't dare connect to the universal network at first, he could finally log in and have a look now that he was outside Nanjing. This thing had all of the youth's messages and a lot of personal information. It was effectively a proof of identity. Unfortunately, the gadget simply couldn't connect to the network. While he had expected this to happen, Lu Yin was still disappointed. The students in planetary trials had their gadgets registered to them, and access to the system would be barred once they died. This also meant that people knew about Vesta's demise. He sighed and looked up towards the sky. He wasn't worried about being exposed as Vesta's killer. Planetary trials were extremely important and under the supervision of the Universe Youth Council. No one could interfere with them. To the Great U Empire, even a primitive planet that had barely stepped foot into space was still a part of their territory. This trial wasn't just for the students who had arrived, it was for Earth as well. In fact, his killing of Vesta was more likely to garner praise than any ill consequences. The attention was part of the reason he hadn't hesitated in going for the kill. Any students that entered Earth would be disallowed from extraterrestrial communication until the end of the trial. By the same token, those outside could only watch and not speak. Such were these trials of blood and steel. Death was anything but uncommon. Lu Yin found no new notifications on Vesta's screen, but there were a few messages that he had marked and placed on the side. Vesta, if you are unable to complete the task within 3 months, the council will send in the second batch of students for the trial. Please do your best. The Universe Youth Council has ruled to dissolve the Youth Council of the Great U Empire. The date of reorganization has not yet been determined. The Universe Youth Council has ruled that Astral 10 shall enter Frostwave Weave of the Outerverse. We wish you all the best of luck. Of the 3 notifications that had been saved, 2 were from the Universe Youth Council. Lu Yin was astonished that the Youth Council of the Great U Empire was dissolved, but his eyes truly went wide when he read that Astral 10 was about to appear in Frostwave Weave. Chapter 13. Lu Shaoj. The Astral Combat Academies were the most powerful institutions in the universe. There were a total of 10 of them, and outside of Astral 9 in the Endless Weave, all others were located in the Innerverse. Astral 10 moving to the Frostwave Weave was big news. This was the weave that contained the Great U Empire. Lu Yin's eyes were practically glowing when he switched the screen off, knowing that this was hugely important. Astral 10 would pose a fatal attraction to many youths in the universe, and while it was unrelated to him at first, he now had to plan around it. Entering the academy would require aptitude, power, and most of all the ability to learn quickly from experience. And there was an enormous chance to gain that experience right now, Earth's planetary evolution. It was no wonder that so many people had come out to participate this time. Vesta was likely one of those who had rushed here the moment he heard the news. However, this wasn't all encouraging. He still didn't know what Vesta's actual mission was. Those participating in planetary evolution had to complete certain tasks to succeed, and even worse, a second batch would arrive in 3 months if this set of students couldn't accomplish that mission. Many people would be enticed by the opportunity, including those from powerful races or affluent families. The next set could bring untold cruelty to this planet. Lu Yin felt a little anxious. If even the first batch of students was comprised of sentinels, then the second would certainly have individuals that were even stronger. With his current power, he might not even be able to preserve his own life. He had to become a sentinel at least within the next 3 months, or he would be relegated to being mere cannon fodder. He ordered his army to begin work the next morning, growing more silent than ever as he simply lay atop the roof of his vehicle. Within the Hubei province, the city of Wuchang was now the core of China's central lands, protecting tens of millions of survivors with more gathering by the day. This place was the camp of one of the seven sages, Lu Yin, the Radiance. The title came from a strange ore that had appeared all around the city soon after the apocalypse came to be, glowing when it was split apart. This ore and its properties were the foundation of Lu Yin's battle techniques and had saved millions of lives. Beams of light shot towards the sky from all over Wuchang, enveloping the entire city. It was thus known as the City of Light amongst survivors, with some even calling it the Ever-Bright City. One section of Wuchang's land was propped up in midair by its beams of light, floating up high in the sky. This was the residence of the Radiance, termed the City in the Sky. Below it was the Camp of Light, where 100,000 cultivators guarded the city's core. There was no grand palace upon the city in the sky, only a pretty courtyard with no form of cover. Those that stood up here could admire the starry heavens without obstruction, which was exactly what an elegant young man was doing at the island's edge. His lips curved upwards in a strange smile as he took a gentle sip of his wine. This was the Radiance himself. Near him was another young man. Though this one wasn't comparable in appearance, the pride in his gaze seemed to disregard the elegant youth entirely. He grumbled, "All these resources here belong to you, especially the light crystals. They could have given you a 10-year head start over the rest of your planet, but here you are, wasting them." Lu Yin turned and smiled at the man. "Don't put it like that, Phil. All these crystals belong to us, not me alone." Phil's expression softened. "Cut off these light pillars, you're squandering resources." Lu Yin nodded. "All right, I'll listen to you. So, could you elaborate on the regional divisions you were talking about?" There are some unwritten rules in training. As long as any of us students control a certain area, we can mark it blue on the net. Most others won't fight for blue districts in the initial phases, the only exception is if they're already enemies. So Wuchang has already been marked blue. Of course. Do you think I was the only one who came here in the past few days? This training is cruel enough already. No one wants a fight to the death so early. We also have to consider each other's backgrounds. Fortunately, mine is good enough for no one to bother us. Lu Yin smiled faintly and nodded. "I see. All right, how's the other stuff I asked you to look into?" Phil asked impatiently, then glanced at the light pillar. Annoyance flashed past his eyes once more. "Deactivate those things, it's such a waste." Lu Yin smiled and poured some wine. "Things are beginning to take shape." Phil's eyes gleamed. "Really? Continue." Lu Yin passed the wine over. "Look at this glass of wine." Phil hesitated and subconsciously looked over. There was nothing special about it, only the liquor within rocking and rippling endlessly, circle after circle. "Hand me your personal gadget," said with a smile, and a sluggish Phil passed it over without question. Not long after, Lu Yin closed the gadget and massaged his head. "Now that I've taken him off the network, will they find out I'm controlling him?" Forget it." He put on the watch and smiled, staring knowingly into the skies. 2 days later, Lu Yin's troops finally approached the front lines. Had they not been forced to repair communication lines along the way, they would have arrived already. Those 2 days had been spent idly staring at the moon, something that made Luo Yi think that he was a fool. The fleet suddenly stopped and Shu San looked towards him. "Something's wrong, boss. We haven't seen any survivors since yesterday, and there should be soldiers patrolling nearby. Have the troops rest." Lu Yin got up and stared into the distance, heading away from the army and taking out his wristwatch. He started the scanner and slowly extended its range. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 10, he soon screened out everything below the Sentinel realm and kept going until he finally found someone 37 kilometers away. His expression sank as he saw the combat level, 2,200. When he checked his map, he saw an abandoned town that was less than 20 kilometers from the front lines. This was right on their path. Having the troops hunker down, Lu Yin headed north on his own. He needed to know if this sentinel was a person or a mutant beast, but that question was answered less than 10 kilometers into the journey. Ahead of him was a squadron of cultivators, which meant that this abandoned town had been turned into an assembly ground. The sentinel he had detected was undoubtedly one of the students who had descended upon Earth. Muttering to himself for a while, he enabled the location tracker on Vesta's watch once more. The moment the tracker was reactivated, a girl in white armor with waist-length hair suddenly popped up more than a dozen kilometers away. She looked at her own watch and snorted, flying south. Not long after, she was in the skies glaring coldly towards Lu Yin. This region has been marked blue, please leave. Lu Yin's eyes gleamed at the sight of the pretty girl. Good day. I'm Yatar from the 1st Military School of the Pagoda Planet. I'm not interested, leave now, the girl replied coldly, energy rippling around her as she directed her strength downwards. Wait, don't be hasty. Lu Yin replied, I'm injured right now, not a threat. I can give you resources, a lot of resources. Her gaze remained cold. You're just a seeker, and you dare to participate in a planetary trial. How did you get in? My grandfather is the headmaster, Lu Yin answered with a proud tone. Scram. The girl was clearly getting annoyed. Lu Yin immediately retrieved several fire crystals from his cosmic ring and tossed them over. Help me survive this, and I'll give you a whole basket of these crystals. The girl grabbed the crystals nonchalantly, but was shocked at the heat they were radiating. She finally descended. Where did you get these? My grandfather, of course. He's an explorer, he can get as many as he wants. The girl's eyes finally gleamed as well, making a fist as she started emanating bloodlust. Lu Yin immediately retreated and glared, don't you dare mess around. No one can interfere in the evolution, but they can look up who lived, who died, and who killed who later. You don't want my grandfather coming after you. The girl thought about it and relaxed her hand. I can help you get out of this planet alive, but I'll have nothing to do with your results. Lu Yin heaved a sigh of relief. No matter, my grandfather can send me to Astral 10 no matter what. Any rewards are all yours. Chapter 14. Energy Crystals. The girl was exasperated by Lu Yin's claim that his grandfather could get him into Astral 10. Not even powerhouses beyond the Explorer realm could affect the Astral Combat Academy, and that knowledge caused her to hesitate. Wait, how can I be sure you're not a native? Lu Yin raised his hand and his right palm vibrated, compressing the surrounding air tightly before launching it towards the ground. The girl was caught off guard as the resulting explosion left a large crater. Shockwave palm. So does that count? Lu Yin asked smugly. The girl's eyes narrowed as she pondered. She knew that although Shockwave Palm was a common battle skill, it wasn't something everyone could learn. It required the user to have a body even stronger than her own. It was astonishing for any seeker to be able to use it. Feeling the slightest of threats herself, she responded slowly, all right, that makes you at least a little useful. Help me capture Nanjing, and I'll share some of the glory with you. Lu Yin was shocked. You want to capture Nanjing? I heard that there's someone called the Executioner there who's a very powerful sentinel. I know. I heard even Orden was humiliated by him, but I'm not that pathetic. If we work together, we can beat that native, she replied coldly. How did you find out? Because we're from the same school. We had a deal to work together if we landed nearby, same as most other people. I guess no one looked to make a deal with you because you're so weak. Lu Yin felt relieved that he hadn't impersonated Vesta. Since this woman knew Orden, she might have known Vesta as well. Could she be the reason why Orden had fled north after Zhou Shan had defeated him? So then why had he suddenly changed his direction and headed east? He really wanted to know, but kept himself from asking. The more ignorant he appeared, the more likely it was for his fraud to be exposed. Since this woman wanted to team up with him, she clearly had some kind of grudge against Orden, or Orden had found a different ally. No matter which option was right, Nanjing was in danger. Okay, I'll help you, but I need to strengthen myself first, he finally answered her question. The formcast model he'd recovered from Vesta was limited to 3 uses, and Vesta had used it twice before he used it to become a seeker. That was why he'd approached the girl in the first place, but she was too strong to beat. No need, the girl frowned. I at least need to heal from my injuries. He protested. This brought a glare his way, but she still flew towards the assembly point with him in tow. Lu Yin saw about 200,000 survivors on the way, and a large proportion of them were cultivators. Most of the soldiers wore the uniform of Zhou Shan's camp. This woman had likely taken control of the front lines. That executioner guy in Nanjing is pretty impressive. He managed to keep 80,000 cultivators with him and was still able to order another 20,000 to the front line to try to open communications with another region. There were 6 seekers in this group, but I killed 2 and another 1 died to a mutant beast, so I only have 3 left for now. The woman readily shared information about the troops as she led him to the top of a villa within the camp. Oh, right, I still don't know your name, Lu Yin mentioned. Geraldine, the girl replied as they landed. Master, another detachment of the executioner's troops are encamped about 30 kilometers away. Lu Yin turned to the newcomer and saw who it was. The man was visibly confused when he saw Lu Yin as well, but Lu Yin rushed the man instantly and struck his chest with a shockwave palm before Geraldine could even move. The man spat out a mouthful of blood as the force of the attack pushed him off the roof, his fall creating quite a stir in the crowd below. What the hell was that for? Geraldine raged. That's the bastard who ambushed me when I first landed. He's the reason I was injured in the first place. Lu Yin answered righteously. When was that? She asked coldly. The day we landed, he answered without hesitation. Where? Around 100 kilometers to the south, Lu Yin replied, looking at her with indignation. What? Are you doubting me, or do you care about that man? Careful with your words. Geraldine snorted. I couldn't care less about a mere native, but you can't just kill my followers. Just a native, Lu Yin clearly didn't care. He's still one of my subordinates, Geraldine said angrily. Lu Yin was annoyed. Fine, I get it, I won't do it again. By the way, the troops 30 kilometers away are mine, should I bring them over? Geraldine ignored him and turned around, glancing at Nanjing and then her watch. Lu Yin glanced towards the ground and breathed a sigh of relief. The man he had attacked was Li Hongliang, who had seen him in the aftermath of Vesta's death. The man knew that he was the one who'd killed Vesta. If he'd been allowed to speak up, things would have gotten complicated. A sneak attack likely wouldn't work on this girl, so he had to bide his time. Geraldine's appearance had wreaked havoc on the front lines, and the soldiers had either escaped or fallen under her command. Since Lu Yin hadn't been able to contact Nanjing all day, he was growing concerned and tried to take appropriate measures. He brought Luo Yi, Shu San, and all of the soldiers to Geraldine's gathering point and also met with the two captains under her command and warned them to keep quiet before looking for her at night. You want what? Star crystals? She looked at him with shock as he asked her a question. Lu Yin nodded. Don't worry, I'll return you 10 times the amount when we return. Geraldine was doubtful. You have fire crystals, but no star crystals. I used them all up, Lu Yin replied. Geraldine was hesitant. Energy crystals could be recovered from the mutant beasts on Earth, but star crystals were different. Every planet and ecosystem had its own unique energy that led to various training methods, but no matter the person or location, the star energy that star crystals contained could be absorbed and used for all training. These crystals could only be produced in places that resonated with the ecosphere of the universe itself, whereas Earth could currently only produce specialized energy crystals like those for fire and ice. However, the students here actually needed those kinds of energy crystals as well. You don't believe me? Fine, then let's trade, Lu Yin said. Geraldine looked at Lu Yin. With what? Lu Yin took out a pile of fire crystals from his cosmic ring. These. Geraldine's eyes gleamed and she started considering how much she would pay for them. The exchange rate varied depending on where one was, and Lu Yin was clearly out of star crystals, so she had the advantage in this negotiation. She eventually came up with a number. I can give you 5. Lu Yin's eyes widened. That's ridiculous. These fire crystals could be exchanged for at least 20 star crystals. That's a 300% profit. Your choice, Geraldine replied arrogantly. Fine, but then I have another condition. Help me practice my battle techniques. Sure, anytime. Accepting 5 translucent crystals the size of his thumb, Lu Yin left to go train. Geraldine stowed the fire crystals with excitement once he left. These things were far more important to her than to most other cultivators. She was someone who used fire-based techniques, so her gains from this deal was a bigger win for her than Lu Yin had thought. She started to wonder, the Pagoda planet. Why have I never heard of it? Could these crystals come from there? Lu Yin started grinning as soon as he left Geraldine. Although the exchange rate was terrible, he had picked up the fire crystals for free. No one on Earth apart from the arriving students had even a single star crystal. Vesta had not even carried a cosmic ring, but Geraldine clearly came from greater wealth, so he could perhaps get more useful things from her. He arrived at an abandoned villa and buried some fire crystals around to keep people from sneaking up on him before heading to the living room, clearing out all the furniture and crushing a star crystal to flood the room with energy. A cultivator would be capable of directly absorbing star energy from their surroundings after using a formcast model, but the speed was dependent on their skills. For this reason, many would collect star crystals and then let the energy erupt in a small space and drastically increase their cultivation speed. Many powerful groups fought over deposits of these things. Chapter 15. The Battle of Nanjing. Lu Yin would never have expected to be able to use star crystals for training on Earth. With the cosmic art to double his training speed, his absorption rate far surpassed students like Geraldine. He believed he would be amongst the best of the entire Great U Empire. It wasn't long before one full crystal had been consumed, greatly increasing the amount of star energy in his body. He quickly moved on to the next one, crushing it and drawing out the energy from within. An abundance of star crystals didn't necessarily mean that one could simply get to the peak of their current realm. Even they contained some level of impurities, and one still needed a formcast model to cleanse themselves. Only melders could absorb the energy from star crystals and dispel the impurities themselves. Those below had low energy thresholds and their combat level was also unstable. They also had to rely on the star crystals for training, which weren't easy to come across. This was the reason they were mostly just soldiers and war slaves. After absorbing a total of 5 star crystals, Lu Yin could feel the energy within his body surging. He had arrived at the peak of the realm of Earth, the limit of someone still a seeker. It would only take a single step to become a sentinel, but that needed a formcast model. He laid atop the villa's rooftop and slept through the night, heading to Geraldine the moment he woke up the next morning. Let's duel. Geraldine was dumbfounded by his candor. Do you know what time it is? I might be a cultivator, but I'm also a girl, you know. Why is a guy looking to fight me so early in the morning? Lu Yin knew himself that he was being difficult, but he really wanted to know the difference between himself and an elite sentinel. He sighed. I'll come over in the afternoon, then. Never mind. Let's fight if you want. Geraldine held him back. She didn't think he was worth too much attention. If not for his shockwave palm, she wouldn't even have cooperated with him. The two found an empty spot and opened up a 10-meter gap between themselves, bestial gurgles ringing out from each side as they prepared. A faint trace of blood drifted into the strong winds. Begin. I won't hit back, Geraldine said proudly. Lu Yin made a fist with his right hand and then released it, tearing the air apart like cloth as his taut legs snapped straight and launched him forward. The winds split the ground near him as he charged with an outstretched palm. The sheer power of the shockwave palm surprised Geraldine. She had initially planned to defend with a single hand, but had to raise both to guard herself. Even then an explosion rang out as the air current swept past, the earth buzzing as it split apart into a crater that was a few meters wide. She exclaimed in shock, quite powerful, even some of the sentinels in my school don't have such strong attacks. A sneak attack with that could probably kill a sentinel below 2K combat level. Lu Yin grinned at that response. He had indeed used the shockwave palm to slap Vesta dead. Though that attack wasn't as strong as today's, Vesta wasn't combat level 2000 either. I'm not done yet. Let's keep going, he said as he launched another attack with equal power, pushing Geraldine even deeper into the ground. Feeling her hands going numb, she frowned. Enough, your attacks won't do anything to me. I already crossed the 2K threshold, you know that my power is different from anyone below. Last one, Lu Yin barked, and this time the surface of his right hand flashed with faint starlight. The moon spun around his palm. While the airflow around was similar to when he activated Shockwave Palm, this was the Cosmic Palm which was far more powerful. Geraldine's heart started thumping as it clapped down on her body, disappearing into a shadow as everything within 100 meters was smashed apart. An explosive distorted the very air around. Geraldine's figure reappeared a dozen meters away, her eyes wide open in shock. What was that? Lu Yin smiled. It's a move my grandfather taught me, the extreme shockwave palm. Geraldine's eyes narrowed. She couldn't recognize the cosmic palm, but the attack was far too powerful to be a regular shockwave palm as well. Even she felt threatened by it, prompting her to remark gravely, I've heard the shockwave palm can be layered, would this be a doubled attack? Lu Yin shrugged. Maybe, I guess the names are just a little different. Geraldine didn't return to her arrogant expression after this bout, instead saying calmly, a doubled shockwave palm has very high physical requirements. Not even many sentinels can achieve it, at least not in my school. You're actually quite strong, you'll be able to measure up to the elites once you become a sentinel. Might even make it into U Academy. The Empire's highest academy. Me. Lu Yin acted shocked. Possibly, that body strength is promising. Alright, I'm tired, I'll go. Lu Yin watched Geraldine's departing figure before lifting his hand to take a look. A friendly duel was one thing, but he had checked to see if there was a chance for him to defeat her in a fight. The girl's reactions were fast and she'd used her footwork technique to dodge at the critical moment, living up to her reputation as an elite. However, he wasn't too shabby himself. He'd still held back the power of his attack the moment she dodged. If she thought this was his limit, she was in for a surprise. Unable to contact Nanjing, Lu Yin had Luo Yi and the rest join the rest of Geraldine's subordinates at the assembly grounds. The girl didn't care about the new arrivals or his explanations, but after 2 days, Luo Yi came over to look for him. "Brother Lu, how long will we be waiting here?" she asked and stared at Lu Yin. She had heard from 2 frontline captains that this was a supply point, but she still felt like something was wrong. The people here kept mentioning a realm of sky powerhouse. Where had that come from? "Stop questioning so much," Lu Yin replied, "you'll know in a few days." Luo Yi wanted to continue her questions, but her face suddenly changed as she stared at the skies. Lu Yin similarly looked up as Geraldine descended with an anxious expression. "Let's go, Orton's team has gone to Nanjing." Shocked, Lu Yin immediately grabbed her arm and allowed her to fly him towards Nanjing. Left behind, a shocked Luo Yi noticed that the girl was wearing armor identical to the alien who had tried to launch an attack on Nanjing not long ago. Nearby, Shu San walked over with a similarly astonished expression. Geraldine flew as fast as she could towards Nanjing, the air screaming as they shot through the skies. Having to carry Lu Yin along, she couldn't possibly reach her top speed. "How do you know Orton's heading for Jilin?" Lu Yin shouted into the wind. "None of your business. Remember, our goal is to snatch Nanjing away, so act accordingly. Orton definitely hasn't gone there alone, and his helper won't be weak. Be careful." Lu Yin's gaze was heavy. If Orton had decided to abandon Geraldine, it implied that his new selection was much stronger than her. By his estimation, Vesta's combat level was around 1,500. Orton was close to 2,000, while Geraldine was a little beyond. Orton's new helper would likely be far beyond 2,000, and it wasn't guaranteed that there would only be one. Looking south, he could only hope that Zhou Shan could hold them back until they got there. Half an hour later, Geraldine and Lu Yin were quickly nearing Nanjing. 2 figures were already floating above the city. One was Orton with a large chunk of his armor shattered, and beside him was a young man with his hands behind his back. The survivors in Nanjing looked up in dismay. 2 powerhouses in the realm of sky. A fierce alarm rang in Zhongshan as Zhou Shan rose into the sky, stopping when he was 200 meters away from Orton and asking calmly, "You again?" Orton sneered, "Isn't it a pity that you didn't kill me before?" Zhou Shan squinted, "Truly unfortunate. HMPH, sadly you'll never get another chance. Let me introduce you to my senior, Terrence." Feeling the energy waves coming off Terrence's body, Zhou Shan felt his heart sinking. This person was much stronger. Terrence stared down at the executioner. To think there would be someone so powerful among the natives. "Follow me, and I can take you to the heavens." "There's no point in reasoning with him, senior. These natives are too stubborn to agree." "Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking," Terrence snapped at him. Orton immediately went meek, murmuring his agreement before glaring at Zhou Shan with gritted teeth. Resentment filled his eyes. "It's impossible for me to follow you. If you want to take Nanjing, defeat me first." Zhou Shan gripped his giant axe, starting to fly north to avoid a fight over the city, but unfortunately that wasn't his decision to make. He was barely a kilometer away before Orton sent a sword blast towards Zhongshan, causing a torrent of screams as a corner of the mountain was crushed. "You're courting death," the executioner bellowed, sweeping towards Orton. A few minutes later, Geraldine and Lu Yin finally reached Nanjing. The assembly grounds were inundated by a symphony of howls, countless people escaping the ruins of Zhongshan. Many large gashes had split apart the earth, swallowing everything in their vicinity even as the air still buzzed with residual energy. Even the clouds had been blown away. Within Nanjing, Zhou Shan spat out a mouthful of blood and leaned against his giant axe with difficulty, staring at the skies. Terrence and Orton were sneering at him from above, the former taking a moment to say, "Not bad, you might even be top 15 within my school. Unfortunately, you've met me." Chapter 16. Power of the Cosmic Palm. A beam of light suddenly shot towards the skies from Nanjing's west wall, aimed right at Orton. He deflected it with his blade, but the impact still caused an explosion in midair. This prompted a sneer on his face, but such things were the exact reason they had attacked within the city itself. Even this native planet possessed the technology to enter the skies, and their old weapons posed a significant threat. Geraldine and Lu Yin landed within Nanjing, the former speaking up in shock. He actually brought Terrence. Terrence. Lu Yin was puzzled. Top 3 in the first military school, combat level over 2,500. Lu Yin's heart sank. Can you stall him for a while? I'll deal with Orden. Yes, but not for long. Lu Yin nodded and ran towards Zhou Shan's position, watching as more beams of energy shot towards the alien from Nanjing's walls. I'll pay you guys a visit once I slaughter this one, Orden said impatiently, dashing towards Zhou Shan on the ground. The executioner gritted his teeth and prepared to deflect with his axe. He could have been a challenge even for Terrence, but with Orden on top, he'd quickly lost control of the battle. The swordsman was quickly right next to him on the ground, rendering Nanjing's ballistics useless. Lu Yin grabbed a fire crystal from his cosmic ring as he approached the battle, tossing it high into the sky. It was quite eye-catching, but Orden and Zhou Shan were too busy doing battle to notice. Terrence glanced over and his eyes started to water, but even he didn't have time to wonder about it before he felt a sharp pain in his back. He turned around quickly, figure swaying like a leaf in the wind as he dodged Geraldine's second strike. You. Geraldine did not reply, simply retrieving a fire crystal from her cosmic ring and crushing it. Flame palm. She barked as her surroundings were burnt, condensing the fire within her hand for an attack. You're dead. Terrence growled as he spat out some blood, his own right palm grabbing the air around for a shockwave palm. The blaze and winds engulfed the earth as both hands slapped against each other, destroying all buildings within a 100-meter radius. The giant flames were swept upwards by the airstream, just like a dancing fiery snake. Geraldine retreated a few steps with a pale face. Terrence's shockwave palm was much stronger than Lu Yin's and was difficult to withstand even if she used her battle techniques. However, her opponent didn't have an easy time either. Fire techniques were already on the high end of the power scale, and the help of a fire crystal left her attack no less harmful than his. He roared once more, Geraldine, this is my territory. She did not reply, the ring armor covering her body and reflecting the red light of the blaze. Terrence clenched his jaw and did the same. He wouldn't have bothered at the start, but now he felt pressure from her, and more importantly, was injured. Geraldine, why are you here? Orden looked back in shock, but his attention was forced back into the battle as Zhou Shan bellowed. He quickly blocked another sweep of the axe, the shockwave from the collision splitting the earth below. Lu Yin suddenly dashed out, approaching Orden in an instant with roving step. His own palm shot out, the moon appearing within. Neither combatant had expected this, and while Zhou Shan only hesitated, Orden's gaze blanked out. The cosmic palm crashed down on his chest the next instant, leaving him unable to utter a single word as his heart was crushed. The boundless energy even bored a hole through his chest and continued into a resonance behind, bringing it down to the ground. Even the ground crumbled under such pressure. Zhou Shan was dumbstruck at the sight. Lu Yin turned his body and swept his leg towards him, ensuring that his back faced Geraldine and Terrence as he hissed, "Attack me." The executioner's gaze flickered, but he attacked without mercy as he used Storm Slash directly. Lu Yin used Roving Step to dodge the attack, but made sure that his clothes were torn apart before continuing, "Push me over there." Zhou Shan roared, and flung his axe forward. Borrowing the strength of the explosive attack, Lu Yin let himself be thrown towards the battle in the distance. Geraldine was already deathly pale, and her right hand was trembling from the injury. While Terrence's armor had been torn apart by the inferno, he was at least marginally better. Lu Yin's body crashed into a wall that wasn't far from Terrence, and he slowly fell to the ground. This finally caught the youth's attention, and he quickly glanced at the other battle where Orden lay dead. His expression warped and he was about to say something, but Zhou Shan suddenly flew off into the distance. "You're not escaping." Terrence leapt after Zhou Shan, turning his back to Lu Yin. It was at this point that Lu Yin dropped the act and jumped off the wall, palm spread out without bothering to conceal the cosmic palm. The moon spun around as he connected firmly with his target's back. Terrence felt the danger moments before he was hit, but was too late to dodge. The moon exploded and threw Terrence to the ground, the impact creating a large crater. Lu Yin himself was sent flying by the counterattack Terrence had managed just in time, his armor shattered by the impact before he flew into the wall once more. Geraldine held her injured arm as she walked over to the pit and looked within, finding a pallid Terrence constantly coughing up blood. Astonished, she turned around to look at Lu Yin, who had fallen in the distance. She couldn't imagine just how that one attack had caused such great injury. That line of thought was quickly cut off as the dying Terrence suddenly opened his eyes once more, whipping out a strange gun and firing a shot towards her. The energy blast bore a hole through her shoulder, and she instinctively reacted with a flame palm right on the other side of Lu Yin's original impact. This devastated Terrence's internals, finally ending his life. Geraldine fell to the ground on the spot, staring in awe at Terrence's corpse while her back turned cold. Although there wasn't a limit on casualties during planetary trials, an abundance of deaths would still draw some ire. This was especially true with Terrence, who was in the top 3 of her school. Many hoped had been pinned on him, leaving her a little nervous at his death. Lu Yin dragged his injured body over and said weakly, "Don't worry. Worst comes to worst, I'll have my grandfather transfer you to the Pagoda planet." Geraldine cast a cold glare his way. "What's with that palm attack you used on him? Even a doubled shockwave palm could not have injured him like that." He shrugged. "You're thinking too much. He was already wounded, and I managed to hit the same spot." However, she clearly didn't believe him. Terrence's combat level was an enormous 2,500. Even stacking attacks, it was difficult for a seeker to cause such injury. However, she was cut off again as a loud shout rang behind them, with the escaped Zhou Shan having reappeared to finish the job. His axe slammed down once more, but as she instinctively grabbed Lu Yin to use as a meat shield, he promptly diverted his attack. Lu Yin himself turned around and landed another palm attack. While he'd sustained heavy injuries himself, she was weak enough for this strike to be effective. Her face paled as she kicked him away in a knee-jerk reaction, falling back into the pit herself. Zhou Shan roared and hacked towards her again, but she grabbed Terrence's gun and fired. The energy beam shot a hole through the executioner's axe and shoulder, throwing him a dozen meters away with an unknown fate. It was only then that the scene went quiet, leaving only the constant crackling of the flames all around. 4 sentinels and a seeker had crushed almost half of Nanjing amidst their battle, burying the district in a sea of fire. Geraldine retrieved some medicine from her cosmic ring and swallowed it, alleviating some of her injuries. Hearing voices from every direction only minutes later, her expression changed and she struggled out of the pit. Dragging her wounded and pierced body through the battlefield, she stumbled towards Zhou Shan, who was lying motionless on the ground. The executioner's troops soon had her surrounded, staring at her injured body warily as they prepared to attack. Feng Hong and Qin Zan, the researcher with glasses, stepped forward. "Surrender immediately, and we can spare your life." "You natives want to spare my life?" Geraldine asked with disdain as she pointed her gun at Zhou Shan's head. "Don't you want this one to live? Let go of the executioner." Feng Hong barked. 10 miles back, or I kill him now." Feng Hong and the other captains looked at each other but didn't move. A cold glint flashed past Geraldine's eyes, however, and she picked up a nearby stone and smashed it against Zhou Shan's head. Seeing the blood starting to flow, Feng Hong finally shouted, "Stop. We can move away, but we have to treat the executioner or he'll die." Geraldine nodded, allowing a doctor to walk over and provide first aid. It took a full 20 minutes to just staunch the blood, after which he spoke up. "His injuries are too severe, we need to take him to treatment immediately. 10 miles back right now and wait, I'll leave in 3 hours. Or I'll just kill this native now." Chapter 17. Becoming a Sentinel. Can the executioner hang in there for another 3 hours? Qin Zan asked the attending doctor from afar, and when she got a nod, the army surrounding Geraldine quickly retreated. Without a soul in sight, she heaved a sigh of relief. She'd only demanded a 3-hour period to play it safe. She only needed about 2 hours to recover from her injuries, and without any sentinels around, no one would be able to stop her at that point. With that train of thought, she glanced at Terrence before her gaze shifted back to Orden. Wait, where was Orden? Her eyes went wide and she tried to get up to look around, but a violent pain surged through her entire body, forcing her to sit back down. She consoled herself with the thought that there was no need to rush. Even if Orden wasn't dead, she could deal with him in 2 hours. After all, his injuries were definitely worse than hers. As for Yatar, the boy who dared to lay a hand on her would get his comeuppance as well. Orden's corpse was in a ruined building 1,000 meters away. Next to it was a gasping Lu Yin. He was badly hurt as well, but to him there was nothing more important than the formcast model right now. With it, his body could still be healed to some extent. Although he tried his best to observe the situation, it took cutting off 5 of Orden's fingers before he finally found the model, at which point he excitedly grabbed it and fused it into his own body. A sharp pain suddenly engulfed him, but he also felt that unmatchable power coursing through and modifying his cellular structure. The agile energy seemed to overlook the starry sky, bringing even a small creature like him away from the earth. Soon, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Cellular rearrangement was very painful, but it was a good pain. He could feel his body evolving, growing more and more compatible with the sky. An hour quickly passed, and Geraldine's face had regained a bit of its flush. Her injuries were much better, the healing process right on track. 1 more hour, she muttered to herself excitedly, without any plans to leave at that point. Her only goal right now was to take control of Nanjing, giving her a bargaining chip with the next batch of students that would arrive. Even though blue zones were protected to a certain degree, not everyone followed that rule. It wasn't much of a problem in ordinary trials, but now that Astral 10 was about to appear, everyone wanted to show off. She was most worried about the next batch of students that would arrive. While her group had been decided before news of Astral 10 was spread, there would undoubtedly be a plethora of prodigies who'd join the second to make a name for themselves. She knew that keeping Nanjing was a pipe dream, but she wanted to rely on it to at least obtain a slightly better score. This was likely the exact same idea Terence had. Another half-hour passed, and just as Geraldine felt like she'd recovered enough to go look for Orden, she felt an appalling surge of star energy from a kilometer away. She looked over in shock. What was that? In the building, Lu Yin finally felt the pain starting to subside. Clenching his fist, he felt the energy surging within his body. It was only now that he'd truly stepped into the realm of cultivators, gaining the right to look towards the stars. Back near the pit, Geraldine tapped her watch and activated the scanner, the gadget beeping a few times before showing a reading of 1000. Someone had just broken through to the Sentinel realm. Was it Yatar? As though he'd heard her thoughts, the distant ruins were pushed aside as Lu Yin walked out, staring straight towards her. Her heart sank in shock, gaze flickering. You became a sentinel. Lu Yin stepped forward and smiled, so you noticed. Geraldine frowned before trying to say gently, Yatar, sorry, I shouldn't have used you as a shield there. But it wasn't intentional, my body just moved on its own. You have to believe me. Lu Yin walked forward until he was about 10 meters away. Of course I believe you. Elite students have faced many life and death scenarios in life, that sort of reflex is normal. Geraldine smiled, that's great. Terence and Orden are now dead, and this native is also broken. Nanjing is ours now. As long as we work together, no one can snatch it away. Lu Yin continued smiling, yeah. Before that, can I borrow something? Her expression froze. Borrow what? Nothing much, just some energy crystals. What did you say? She glared at him. Lu Yin stared back indifferently. Hand over your cosmic ring. Are you trying to rob me? He shrugged at her, yelling, don't make it sound like that, I just want to take a look. Geraldine got up and hissed, Yatar, just because that formcast model healed you a little doesn't mean you can bully me. You haven't fully recovered, and I've gotten better too. You're not guaranteed to win if we fight, and don't forget you're still 1.3k. Would you spout so much bullshit if you really believed in the level difference? Lu Yin's lips twitched. Seeing the glint in her eyes even as she remained silent, he continued, combat level is just a measure of the outward influence of someone's star energy, it isn't an actual reading of one's ability in battle. That's the first line in most textbooks. That's just the books trying not to upset mediocre students. The higher one's combat level, the more their star energy can suppress the opponent. Why else do you think Terence is almost twice as strong as me? I can't make up for that with battle techniques. Lu Yin walked closer, then attack me, if you're that confident. Geraldine stared coldly at the approaching Lu Yin, retrieving a fire crystal from her cosmic ring. She forced herself to execute a flame palm that would defeat Lu Yin in a single strike. The rebound of that attack would injure her again, but she was left with no choice. Lu Yin watched the deep blaze in her palm and lifted his own, the moon starting to spin as he used cosmic palm without the slightest hesitation. The contact explosion completely extinguished the flames, fracturing Geraldine's arm and ending her flying 100 meters away. She stared at him in pain and shock, unable to believe that a single strike could hurt her so severely. Just what kind of battle technique was that? Shockwave palm was no match for her fire palm, and she was supposed to be twice as strong as him. Lu Yin himself wasn't surprised, nonchalantly glancing at his palm. The power of his strike had risen again now that he was a sentinel, with traces of stars in the attack as well. The explosion suppressed everything with just a single cosmic body. What would happen when he had 2, or 10 or 20? How powerful would it be then? He wouldn't even dare imagine it. He just knew that he simply couldn't reveal this battle technique's origins. The explosions attracted Qin Zan and the rest once more, and when the troops reappeared, they only saw Lu Yin standing on the ground next to Zhou Shan. Brother Lu. Feng Hong was shocked. They had all been too far from the battle to see what had happened. Lock this woman up and save the executioner, Lu Yin ordered. Geraldine was quickly brought away by the troops, but as Zhou Shan was moved onto a stretcher he regained consciousness and called out in a weak voice, "Wait." Everyone drew closer, and the executioner turned to Lu Yin. "I'll need your help, protect Nanjing while I recover." "Don't worry," Lu Yin nodded. "Thank you." With that, Zhou Shan immediately fainted again. Nanjing had suffered heavy losses in today's battle. Lu Yin ordered the troops to rebuild the destroyed assembly grounds and pacified the survivors before commanding Luo Yi and group to rush back to the city. Fortunately, these were things he didn't need to worry about himself, allowing him to head to the lowest level of the camp's prisons. All 4 of Geraldine's limbs had been locked and tied up, with a number of guns trained on her from all around. They would fire at the first sign of abnormal movements, blowing her to pieces, but Lu Yin ordered the guards away and walked over alone. Taking off her cosmic ring, he unlocked it with a drop of blood from her finger and emptied her belongings onto the floor. Not many people could afford these things, with Vesta and even Orden not being in possession of one. He'd already cleared out Terrence's ring just before he came here, and now it was Geraldine's turn. "What are you?" Geraldine asked as he sorted through her stuff. Lu Yin smiled. "What do you think? You don't belong on this primitive planet, you have to have come from elsewhere in the universe," she reasoned, staring at Lu Yin with gritted teeth. Lu Yin nodded, grabbing all her energy crystals before stuffing other items like undergarments back in the ring and returning to her. Cosmic rings were tied to the genetic code of their users, so it would be useless for him to hold onto it. Chapter 18. Training Mission. Lu Yin only spoke up once he was done robbing all of Geraldine's crystals. "My name is Lu Yin, not Yatar. Don't call me by the wrong name." "Lu Yin, is that your Earth name?" He didn't answer that question, but rather gave her an order: "Log into the Universal Network and mark Nanjing blue under you." Geraldine chuckled but otherwise ignored him. He sighed. "You know, I don't actually like torturing people, but this is a military base and they have all sorts of ways to get you on board. These natives will pay the price for that." She barked. That anger was met with a cold glare. "Sure, but your price will be much more terrifying and immediate." Geraldine matched his gaze for a while but eventually caved in. In the end, she was just a student. Though she could be proud, cold, and even cruel to the natives of Earth, that was merely due to the difference in their status. When that difference was taken away, all that was left was a normal schoolgirl like any other. Lu Yin watched as she logged in and turned Nanjing blue, noticing that a good portion of the planet had been marked by these aliens. Situations like Geraldine's were bound to be exceptional, but large swaths of China, Europe, Africa, and the Americas had changed color. The area that stood out to him most was Hubei. Had Lu Xiaoj surrendered to a student? Was he killed? He turned to Geraldine, who was the strongest in this batch of students. She shook her head. "I don't know. The Empire itself initiated this evolution, so the students can be from many different schools. Terrence was one of the strongest from mine, but I have no idea about the others." Lu Yin held back from asking further questions. He was confident in dealing with the current batch of students, but he also knew the true challenge would only begin in 2 months. With everyone else busy, he gave himself the task of clearing out any mutant beasts he could detect with his scanner that were in the realm of sky. Finishing that task in 5 days, he called upon all remaining captains, even calling back Luo Yi and Shu San from the front lines. The latter was dumbstruck to find out that his new master was now stepping in for the executioner with full control of Nanjing, but that only made him certain that his future looked promising. Lu Yin had supported Shu San quite a bit already, helping him become a seeker in this time. He knew that the man's value would skyrocket once he became a sentinel, but Shu San simply reveled in the preferential treatment and resolved himself to grow stronger quickly. He believed that the best way for him to aid Lu Yin was to grow more powerful, at which point his own gains would improve as well. If anyone had any complaints about the current power structure, they didn't dare to voice them. Everyone was aware that Lu Yin had intervened in a battle with two Realm of Sky experts, showing that he too had reached that realm. This was a level of power that matched the executioner, and no captain would overstep their bounds. As for the two captains that had once surrendered to Geraldine, Lu Yin stripped them of their ranks as punishment for the crime. The most important order of business is to give up on expansion efforts and focus on fortifying Nanjing, Lu Yin announced to the 8 remaining captains. Someone hesitantly replied, carving a path towards the capital was the foundation of the executioner's strategy. It wouldn't be good to stray from his goals. I agree with Lu Yin, Qin Zan countered. Nanjing is too weak to connect to the rest of the country right now. We need to first stabilize this place to ward off external threats. Seeing the nods from Feng Hong and the others, Lu Yin stood up. Then it's decided. All of the camp's soldiers are going to be recalled. We'll begin heading west to reclaim the lost parts of the district. The last bit was said as he was leaving the meeting, leaving the others silently looking at each other. Qin Zan fell into deep thought as she watched Lu Yin leave. She felt that he was even more bold than the executioner while still wanting to help Nanjing, but the supposed temporary caretaker of the city was overruling Zhou Shan's strategies. Although she agreed with this change, she wondered how the sage would react when he awoke. Feng Hong, stay close to the executioner for a while, she whispered. Feng Hong was puzzled. Why? An abundance of precaution. Just protect the executioner. She feared that Lu Yin would harm or even kill the executioner to gain complete control over the camp. Across the room, Luo Yi's eyes flickered as she observed the two talk. Zhao Yu had left a few days ago by herself, heading northeast. This girl's courage was admirable, but Lu Yin felt the decision wasn't very sensible. The stronghold had originally housed 80,000 cultivators, but 30,000 of them had originally been stationed at the front lines. Now that they had returned with the rest of the captains, the district's defenses had been strengthened drastically. Zhongshan was now a true fortress, but that meant the countryside was more fragile than ever before. Beams of light flashed across the sky to the backdrop of the crimson sunset, destroying a number of flying mutants. Atop the city's walls, Lu Yin called out, use ballistics if you notice a group of beasts or a zombie horde, no need to hold back. Understood. Two captains responded. A sudden cry rang out in the distance, many zombies being torn apart as a massive flying beast rushed towards the city. It swept close to the ground and grabbed talonfuls of zombies along the way, crushing them to pieces amidst its flight. Attack it! Quick! Someone screamed, and people started panicking. However, Lu Yin's eyes narrowed and he leapt up with Orden's sword in hand, one sentinel-level strike knocking the beast straight to the ground. The scream turned into a wail as its head was twisted strangely by the impact, voice slowly dying out. Lu Yin jumped down onto its back and slid the sword into its head, causing 2 twitches after which all movement stopped. It took a moment for the stunned onlookers to burst into cheers. The hidden sage won. Someone cried out amongst the crowd, which was soon picked up by everyone. Lu Yin's mouth twitched. He didn't want to be another sage, but no matter how he tried to calm the crowd, the term quickly started to spread. Few zombies or beasts remained around Nanjing as the cultivators at the stronghold had already exterminated most of them. Following Lu Yin's orders, most of the people's energy was focused on regaining the western lands. Nearly half the captains moved out in support. Survivors continued to flock to Nanjing, and the number of cultivators grew as well. Half a month sped by, and soon less than 70 days remained before the next batch of students arrived. During this time Lu Yin had used about half of his star crystals to cultivate, getting to combat level 1500. Star crystals were not typically used to accelerate cultivation and upgrade an individual's power, but were mostly used to train battle skills or to power high-tech equipment. The crystals could also be used to rapidly recover energy after exhaustion. A powerful battle technique could often multiply one's strength, but a higher combat level alone could cause others to be cautious. Obviously, a higher power level represented the body's energy, which meant that the same attack would be more powerful, much like how Terrence's shockwave palm had been able to counter Geraldine's battle technique. Although Terrence had saved some star crystals to train his battle techniques, it had been for nothing in the end. Otherwise, his last battle would have ended differently. Lu Yin planned on using his remaining star crystals to improve his cosmic palm and try some other things. Geraldine had given up during these 2 weeks, requesting to meet with Lu Yin. Although he hadn't allowed anyone to torture her physically, she had been placed in solitary confinement in a dark dungeon and forced to eat food made from rats. It wasn't long before she cracked. I'll help you if you let me go, she pleaded weakly, face pale and gaze unfocused. Her very body seemed to radiate an unpleasant odor. Lu Yin remained indifferent. How can you help me? I can help you protect Nanjing, and I'll do whatever else you want me to. Just let me out, I'm losing my mind. Lu Yin stared at her. So what's the mission in this trial? You're really not a student. How did you manage to enter Earth when it's been under the Great Yu Empire's observation for so long? Geraldine's gaze brightened, but when Lu Yin turned to leave she called out, wait, fine. I was just curious, I won't say anything. Our mission was to hunt down an escaped criminal. A criminal? Lu Yin turned back with interest. She nodded. We were given the mission 1 day before the trial started. A criminal managed to escape parole and came to Earth. He was the one who triggered the planet's evolution. The Empire didn't plan to use this planet for a while, but now it was the best choice. This even delayed our training by several months. We were supposed to start much earlier. One reading of Yin is hidden. Chapter 19. Time stop. Lu Yin was caught off guard. You guys weren't the ones that started Earth's evolution. Geraldine shook her head. No, the planet where we were originally supposed to train on is actually quite far away. This was shocking information. If Earth's evolution hadn't been triggered by the Great Yu Empire but somehow initiated locally, could it have been that corpse? Who is this escaped criminal? He asked. Geraldine coughed a few times. I don't actually know. Their identity is classified, so no one knows what they look like or even what their name is. Then how are you supposed to find them? This is a planetary trial. Of course, it wouldn't be that simple. But even if you manage to track the criminal down, are students enough to capture him? Probably. They come from the Innerverse, but they've sustained heavy injuries so there's no way for them to be stronger than a melder. On top of that, all their equipment is destroyed so they have nothing to rely on. Lu Yin released Geraldine after 10 more minutes of conversation, having someone take her to a place where she could bathe and get treatment. She took an entire day to take care of herself, only meeting him the next afternoon. While she had been in pain for the entirety of the past few weeks, a special healing potion that she'd brought on the trip ensured that the shoulder injury was all that remained. At their next meeting, Lu Yin led Geraldine to an empty field outside Nanjing. So you've recovered completely outside of your shoulder. Do you want to try and beat me to avenge the humiliation? Geraldine glared at Lu Yin. Her limbs were still bound with metal chains. However, he only laughed. Stop pretending. With your strength, these things can't restrain you. Clang. Geraldine immediately broke free of the chains, but this caused pain to shoot up her right arm. She paled instantly. I told you I'd help you. Would you still be afraid if I got rid of this? Lu Yin removed Terrence's gun from his belt and threw it on the ground. Geraldine stared in shock at the weapon. This gun that could injure even sentinels was the primary reason she had been afraid of him. How could he toss it aside so easily? Come on, see if you can beat me. Victory means control of Nanjing and vengeance, wouldn't that be perfect? He taunted her. Geraldine's eyes gleamed and she tossed her hair behind, rushing towards Lu Yin with full force. Even if she wasn't sure of defeating him, she knew that she could at least hold her own in combat. After all, he was only a new sentinel himself. Sparks flew from the ground whenever her feet made contact, flames condensing around her left hand as she swept it forward. Using roving step, Lu Yin dodged the flame palm with ease before tossing out some crystals. Not enough fire, try again. Geraldine was surprised but didn't hesitate. Since she had already started, she would use everything she could to win. The fire crystals broke apart to release towering flames that she condensed with a twist of her hand, gathering it all into a single attack. Lu Yin merely took a step back and raised his own hand, stars appearing on his palm. Bang! The impact shattered the ground, launching flames high into the sky where they exploded like fireworks. Geraldine was blown away by the shockwaves, spitting out a mouthful of blood in the air and coughing up another when she crashed into the ground. On the other hand, Lu Yin remained in place with an indifferent expression. His cosmic palm had killed Terrence when he was just a seeker, and now he was a sentinel. The only reason Geraldine wasn't dead was mercy. How? Unable to even get up from the ground, the girl just wheezed in shock. Although she was aware that Lu Yin had a powerful battle technique, it had only beaten her before because she was incapable of using her full strength. This time, her flame palm hadn't even pushed him back. Soldiers from the camp rushed over after hearing the noise, but they were held back by Lu Yin. He walked over to Geraldine. "Are you going to keep resisting?" "What battle technique was that?" she asked, blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. Her once beautiful face was now pallid. Lu Yin smirked. "Shockwave palm, 3x. "What do you mean? There's no way that was shockwave palm," she protested weakly. Lu Yin smiled while retrieving the energy gun. "Haven't you heard the legends? A powerhouse once stacked 100 shockwave palms to shatter the stars. 3 are more than enough to defeat you." Geraldine was still incredulous. She couldn't accept that a person who she had been able to easily crush was now able to beat her so easily. "Go and heal your injuries. From now on you are my bodyguard," Lu Yin smiled, leaving as she spat out another mouthful of blood. She finally realized why this jerk had allowed her to challenge him. He had only wanted to subdue her completely. Lu Yin struggled to contain his excitement as he returned to his quarters. While his combat level was only 1,500, his cosmic palm was now something that even a peak Terrence wouldn't be able to handle. He could finally be confident in defending himself. Asking Shu San to guard him while he trained, he headed to a sealed arena within Nanjing and took out a star crystal and crushed it. This time he didn't absorb it, instead summoning his die once more. He had noticed its dullness after the previous use, and while it had been regaining its luster on its own, he believed that star energy would be able to empower it as well. That expectation was met, and the die rapidly absorbed the crystal's energy until the room was empty once more. Lu Yin continued to take out star crystals, watching as the die slowly recovered its glow. It was only when he had a single crystal left that it completely returned to its former glow, shrouded in starlight as before. He cleaned the nervous sweat from his brow. This thing just ate up too much star energy. After calculating, he realized that adding up the star crystals he had taken from Terrence and Geraldine and the energy the die had passively recovered over the past few days, the die had absorbed nearly half a cube of star crystals. If he also added up the energy it had absorbed from the burst of energy released when he had become a sentinel, the die had probably needed an entire cube of star crystals to recover. Even a wealthy student like Terrence couldn't possibly bring that much of such a valuable resource. This incident gave Lu Yin a premonition that he was destined for destitution in the future. He needed to find a way to earn large sums of money, or he wouldn't even be able to use his innate gift that he would never be able to abandon. The first use of it had brought him an unbelievable skill like the cosmic art with no repercussions to speak of. No matter whether it took 1 cube of star crystals or 100, he would keep using it. In the worst-case scenario, he would just rob people. He swallowed in anticipation as he watched the die float before him, rubbing his hands before tapping it gently. His breathing grew hurried as it started to spin. "Come on, give me something good." 5 of the die's faces slowly faded, leaving only the one with 4 pips visible. The space around him changed before he could think about it, the arena and even all of Nanjing disappearing. All he could see was an endless space of gray and white, with no beginning nor end. Above him was limitless darkness, and the ground below was made of some tough material he didn't recognize. The only other thing was what seemed like a countdown behind him. 259,200, 259,199, 259,198. The words time stop domain floated into his mind, leaving him stunned. Was it actually possible to pause time? That was something he'd only heard of in legends. He soon knew that the countdown he was seeing was seconds, depicting the time he would be allowed to stay here. 259,200 seconds, or exactly 3 days for a roll of 4. The outside world wouldn't change at all until this timer ended. Lu Yin released a big breath as he stared at the numbers slowly counting down. Wasn't his innate gift just too terrifying? He cleared his mind and shook his head, raising his hand to look at the die, but saw that it was dull once more. He now understood why so much star energy was needed. It was used to gain access to this space. A small test with his final star crystal left him speechless. The number went up as he threw the crystal over, but only by 5 seconds. Wasn't that way too small? Chapter 20. Origin of the Apocalypse. The time-stop domain initially provided Lu Yin with 3 days of frozen time, but the price to extend that was far too steep. One fist-sized crystal only added 5 seconds. If that scaled, a full cubic meter would only add about 80 minutes to the timer. His need for star crystals had grown once more. He needed them for cultivation, battle technique training, equipment, charging his die, increasing the duration of the time-stop domain, and a million other small things. He was starting to believe that some disreputable acts would be worth it if he could get enough crystals. In fact, maybe becoming an interstellar bandit wasn't a bad career choice. Shaking off that thought, he examined his surroundings. 3 days of time here was a rather awkward duration. He didn't have any star crystals to absorb, and there wasn't enough time to upgrade his cosmic palm. What about other techniques? Wondering for a moment, he soon decided that there was only one technique that he could practice right now, the Spacerender Palm. Spacerender Palm was the upgraded version of the Shockwave Palm, another battle technique available to the masses. Its physical requirements far exceeded that of the Shockwave Palm, to the point that not even many melders could utilize it. However, this suited him perfectly. He had no energy crystals to train anything else, and he was confident in the strength of his body. Spacerender Palm was much more powerful than Shockwave Palm, and more importantly, it was a long-range attack. It could make up for his current shortcomings. Although he hadn't been practicing his battle techniques for a while, he hadn't relaxed his training regimen for his body. The near-zero star energy cost of Shockwave Palm was the reason that Lu Yin had managed to use it to kill Vesta. Although the universe was flooded with star energy on the whole, every planet had a unique ecosystem and some of them weren't compatible with it. Techniques like the Shockwave Palm that relied on one's physical energy were extremely underrated by most people. In the process of chasing more formidable battle techniques, they didn't pause to wonder whether those techniques could be used in all situations. As the timer continued to tick down, he went down and started doing push-ups with a single finger. 3 sweaty days quickly passed, and Lu Yin watched the scenery before him warping once more. He returned to the training arena he had just entered on Earth, and a quick glance confirmed that only a second had passed in his 3 days of rough training. Taking a quick bath, he rested for the rest of the night. When he met Geraldine the next morning, Lu Yin noticed the hint of dread in her gaze as he asked, "Do you know what your role is?" "Your bodyguard," Geraldine answered softly. He chuckled. "Let's go, the executioner should be awake soon." Having sustained injuries far worse than Geraldine's, Zhou Shan had been undergoing advanced therapy. After sustaining severe wounds from Terrence, he would have been killed by Orden if not for Lu Yin. Even with the half-month of treatment, he was visibly thinner and weaker. When Lu Yin brought Geraldine towards the executioner's ward, Feng Hong got up immediately. "Brother Lu, no, hidden sage, the executioner has woken up." Lu Yin felt helpless at the use of the moniker. He definitely didn't want that title when the second batch of students was about to arrive, as it would place a target on his back. However, all of Nanjing now called him by that title, and it was widely known that he had reached the realm of sky. There wasn't any way to refute. "You can stay here," he responded, stepping past Feng Hong to enter the ward. Feng Hong stared vigilantly at Geraldine for obvious reasons, but she didn't bother with him. She didn't care about anyone outside of Lu Yin himself here. Were he not from the greater universe like her, it would have taken a while for her ego to allow her to give in. In the ward, Qin Zan was the only one present besides Zhou Shan. She grew alert as soon as she saw Lu Yin stepping in, moving in front of Zhou Shan. Lu Yin was quite amused. "Don't mind me, I'm just here to talk to the executioner." "Qin Zan, move aside." Zhou Shan's feeble voice prompted her to stop muttering to herself and step aside. Lu Yin looked towards her. "You can leave." Qin Zan's gaze changed, and she looked at Zhou Shan, who nodded in agreement. Still, the hesitation was clear in her steps. "My apologies, she's too worried about me," Zhou Shan said weakly as he gestured for Lu Yin to sit. Lu Yin sat beside the man's bed and smiled. "She's afraid I'll harm you." He chuckled. "If you wanted to do that, I wouldn't have lived this long. I heard you gave up on the north to focus on Nanjing and the west." Lu Yin nodded and stood up, walking to the window and staring at the ruins of Zhongshan. "It's been half a year since the apocalypse. There might be a lot of zombies, but they're not too much of a threat. The mutant beasts are a different story. They'll grow stronger with time, and the entire front line might collapse if it's stretched too thin. It's exactly because it's been half a year that I wanted to reach out to the rest and join hands to reclaim China." Zhao Yu risked her life to come to Nanjing for that reason. Lu Yin turned back. How many casualties does the stronghold suffer every day? How long do you think our path will be? I already had Luo Yi report that the supposedly safe roads had a zombie king with intelligence. That thing could evolve, and even consume special materials to develop rudimentary battle techniques. Your captains can't handle that. Will you go there personally? And how much can you do yourself? Can you ensure that there won't be a single realm of sky on the way? Zhou Shan went silent for a while before smiling bitterly. I can't, but I need to establish contact with the capital. I need to figure out the origin of the apocalypse. Lu Yin perked up. The origin of the apocalypse. Zhou Shan stared solemnly at Lu Yin. We received some news when the country brought that corpse back from Neptune. We relied on the news to be ahead of everyone else and become the seven sages, but the corpse posed its own problems. But there were problems. The Ministry of Science and Technology discovered an abnormal substance on its body that can instigate strange changes in DNA. I believe that is what brought about the apocalypse. What happened then? Zhou Shan continued with a pained expression. The ministry couldn't control the substance, so Primary ordered for the corpse to be transported away. The seven of us were separated to protect different parts of China. Primary might have guessed things already, but the apocalypse struck the very day the corpse was to be transported. Lu Yin was staring intently at Zhou Shan, but the executioner stared at the ceiling instead. We don't know how it happened, but there was great change in an instant. The researchers, Primary, and a lot of other people died in a great explosion. We tried our best to get in touch, but no one knew what happened, even Zhang Dingtian who was in the capital. What about that corpse? Lu Yin asked quickly. That thing would contain a formcast model, and it could be the same criminal from the Interverse that these students were trying to find. Zhou Shan shook his head. No idea, there was only a giant pit filled with lava left behind. All the information vanished in that explosion, and the apocalypse arrived. Lu Yin could tell that Zhou Shan was not lying. He had come to Nanjing from Hubei precisely as a part of his search for the corpse. It seemed like he had to pay the capital a visit. He sighed. Get some rest, I'll be going. Are you leaving Nanjing? Zhou Shan asked. You don't want me to? Of course not, you're the only one who can defend the city. You managed to injure the strongest of the aliens even when you were in the realm of Earth. Now that you're in the realm of Sky, you're certainly stronger than me. I hope for you to stay. The camp will follow your orders, as will I. Lu Yin was confused. Why? You're still the revered executioner. Nanjing will still be yours after I leave. Zhou Shan could not help but laugh bitterly. Do you think I want that title? I'm a career soldier. I defend Nanjing because of Primary's orders, nothing else. The survival of the millions in Nanjing is what's important. I hope you can stay and protect them. Lu Yin stared into Zhou Shan's eyes, and the man did not show a single hint of weakness. He eventually nodded and turned to leave the ward. I'll stay, for now. Zhou Shan heaved a sigh of relief and looked out the window. The battle half a month ago was etched deeply in his memory. He was termed the executioner, but he was no more than a pawn. The pressure of millions of lives was too great, and he truly hoped for Lu Yin to stay behind for a future where his people survived. The information about the corpse was top secret, but it had shown his sincerity. Qin Zan hurriedly entered the ward as Lu Yin left, and Lu Yin nodded towards Feng Hong before leaving with Geraldine in tow. Zhou Shan being a soldier was a heavy revelation, as it was an added responsibility. Lu Yin didn't want to bear that burden. While he respected the executioner, he wouldn't stay behind forever to lead the man. With Terrence's formcast model on hand, he could stay here for now and wait until he became a melder. However, nothing was more important than that corpse. He would leave the moment there was news.